They told me, son, you're special. You were born to do great things. You know what? They were right.
Welcome to NOCLIP. I'm Chad Reverman.
I'm JGR Artemis.
And I'm Andy Kenny.
And today we're going to be talking about Bioshock. Bioshock was a game that was released in 2007 on the Xbox 360 and was developed by 2K Games in 2 different cities from the members of the team that would eventually reclaim their name of Irrational Games. Mm-hmm. I was actually wanting to ask specifically Andy, because this is the first time that he had played the game,
right?
Where he would want to start this podcast.
Don't put that pressure on me. For me, what I think is interesting about this game is it came out in 2007, and I didn't have an Xbox 360 or a PS3 back then, so I don't really know what like the trends in gaming, like in AAA gaming, were then.
Right.
So like the beginning of it, I think would have really blown me away at the time, but it's something that seems almost kind of like commonplace now.
Which parts?
The part where, like, the way that it starts, like, with the plane crash, and then it just, like, you just, like, dropped into the ocean, and then you have to, like, realize, oh, I can swim to the lighthouse. It's, like, more cinematic, and that's...
It's kind of like how video games are just made now. Like,
yeah.
AAA story-based games.
Right, like, because, just watched you play Metal Gear 5, which has a very, like, cinematic opening that is somewhat reminiscent.
But like cinematic gameplay specifically, like weird little opening vignettes, and like in the vein of like Uncharted.
I was wondering if,
things.
if like this game kind of like kickstarted that trend or not.
I'm honestly not 100% sure. It definitely did, like, for me. I know that, like, Half-Life 2 came out prior to that, or to this, by about 3 years, and it had, like, storytelling elements that were kind of meshed in with the gameplay, but it certainly would you would never refer to it as cinematic.
Yeah, it wasn't trying to be bombastic.
Right.
They both were trying, both as in Half-Life 2 and Bioshock, spend their opening minutes attempting to set up a world really effectively, but Bioshock is trying to be like the ride at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
And Half-Life is just trying to be the same, like, kind of subtle Half-Life that all the Half-Life games have always been.
That's kind of the reason why I wanted to start with this, is because start with you, because I knew that you were going to talk about how, since it was the first time playing it, and it was in 2016.
Right.
When I first played this game, which I know I didn't get a 360 at launch, but it would have been shortly thereafter. And then picking this game up as one of the first games that I played on the console. Other than that, I think the game with the most, like, far-reaching story that I had played was, like, Banjo-Kazooie. So, like, the things that this game did for, like storytelling games and, like, what games were capable of, not to mention the fact that, like, the hardware leap between, like, the original Xbox PS2 era and the Xbox 360 is probably one of the most noticeable, like, graphics-wise. I mean, going from 2D to 3D was probably a pretty big one. But, like, the like, comparative textures and, like, polygons and all that stuff that I didn't even know the words for at the time were, like, such a significant step up from the PlayStation 2 that I was used to, that, like, this game just completely knocked me on my ass from the very first moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that, like, I feel like that element of it is probably just not something that exists anymore.
Well, as in, like, the comparative being knocked on your ass part, like, being surprised about the graphical fidelity and things?
Yeah.
That is, I'm worried that, in that case specifically, that just might be us getting old and being cynical about things. I mean, I agree. I think everyone agrees at this point that, like, the jump from 3 to 4, in terms of like the PlayStation, Wait, what generation number are we on?
Oh god,
like
I don't
9
even.
or something.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's gotten to a number high enough that it's no longer practical to use.
I think it's 8 or 9. I'm not sure. I'm probably totally wrong.
But this console generation's graphical fidelity jump has been the smallest maybe ever, at least in terms of.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that makes total sense. Never mind.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah. So I mean, for the current time anyway, we're definitely lacking moments like that with the kind of crazy graphical pop that Swimming Through the Water and Bioshock has for you. But I mean, there were moments like that pre-Bioshock. They just weren't cinematically influenced as much. Like the first time you opened a magazine and saw, I don't know, Gears of War and some of the pre-launch footage for that, people got very excited
I think
at the time.
Yeah.
it's probably, at least, I don't know, I'm speaking from, this is all just speculation on my part, and you guys can confirm or deny this, but, it seems like that this was probably one of the first games that, took something that would have been done in a cutscene and, let you play it.
Right, doing it yourself.
Right. Which is commonplace now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I feel like I could kind of put myself in those shoes when I played the opening, because it's cool now.
Right.
That the plane crashes, and then it's just in the water there, and then it just you realize you have control. It's a cool moment, and I feel like back then is probably grabbed everybody by the balls immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Half-Life was the first game to do that literally. Bioshock was the first game to do that just cinematically.
Right, it's done for effect, and the game is very deliberate about the points where it takes control away from you. There's either a very physical reason for you not to be able to move, or there's a plot related reason.
Yeah.
As we'll get into when we get into the plot. Basically, that whole segment that we just did there was me attempting to cover my ass in case anybody thinks this game is dated, as we now launch into what is going to be just a massive, ludicrous love fest for one of my favorite games of all time, and these guys probably try and talk me down.
Somehow I actually forgot that. I forgot
yeah.
your opinion of this game was that high. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but...
Yeah, I will accept the duties of Negative Nancy to counterbalance Chad's love of this game.
But, so one of the perfect best things ever do we want to get into first?
Is Bioshock.
Yeah. Because, I guess since we were talking about, the graphical fidelity of the game, the natural lead-in to the next thing would be, the aesthetic of the game, which I think is, obviously, is insanely well put together. But, I feel like the game design and the, art design sort of worked together so well in this game. And it's really striking when, you're in this, underwater city. Which, in case you were unaware, Bioshock takes place underwater. And, you're walking around and they're just, I don't even know how to describe splicers in a way that makes them not... other than just being, splicers.
Melty Joes?
Melty Joes.
Melty Joes.
They're kind of I guess they're kind of treated like drug addicts.
Yeah.
Right?
They look kind of like zombies.
Yeah.
But
with
not...
plague doctor masks.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
They don't act like it.
I actually spent a lot of time before coming over to record. I played through the opening again, and just was trying to look really, really carefully at a lot of the aesthetic elements, both in the opening and in the individual models. And a lot of the splicers, they took good advantage of their setting there, and that because everything's low light, they look freakish and deformed, but you never have to really pay attention to them. Mm-hmm. Some of the cracks begin to show if you just do something you as a player would never do, which is sit there and zoom in on their face.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's where I got the term Melty Joes, because they're essentially just weird, deformed impressions, they were made of wax, and you just kind of shoved your thumb in at different points.
Yeah. And I'm actually, and one of you guys might know, it's kind of embarrassing that I don't know this offhand, but I don't know if the implication is that through the use of plasmids,
they're addicted to atoms.
Right.
It's
But
genetic
if
deformities.
okay, it's definitely because I know that like there's a whole subplot where Dr. Steinman is like just carving people up and making them look terrible. But like I know that there's a splicer model in the game that has like their foot is just permanently a high heel. And it's like I doubt that he did that. It's like that's weird. I don't know. And there are a lot of them because it's a model in a game, so it's reused. So it definitely is like a genetic thing then.
Yeah,
That's-
at least that was my understanding at the time.
It would make sense that it would mutate them.
Yeah.
I think
Since that
if they
your
used
genetic
it,
code is being
they
rewritten.
use it a bunch.
Yeah, it can create bees.
Right.
Also, that's the bio in Bioshock, right? That's what that's
Presumably.
supposed to mean? Okay.
Yeah.
I was a dumb child for a long time and never quite got how the title related to the rest of the game, other than referencing the other
System Shock,
shocks, of course.
right.
Like, I thought the bio component was like a weird thing to focus on comparatively. It's like they're in the water. It's kind of
They are
It should be
kind
called
of,
Aqua
they are
Shock.
kind of in like a biodome.
oh, is that it? It's like biomes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm gonna stick to my
I
guns
still
and say
I
this
still think
biology
that's-
shock.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could take it in a number of ways.
It's
if you
almost
like
wanted
yeah.
to.
Both
Yeah.
work, and they chose it intentionally for that reason, among
Yeah,
others.
extremely not like game design related, not something that we usually talk about on the podcast, but Bioshock is an A+ name. It's a really good name.
10 out of 10.
It's like hard to forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, like pretty well references where it's coming from.
Snappy.
Snappy name. I like it.
This concludes the name review.
But no, okay. Talking about the aesthetics.
They're garbage.
The garbage.
They're hot garbage.
So you're underwater, and you're surrounded by these like horrible mutants that we were just talking about. And yet, despite that, the game does a really good job of making the player feel like isolated. Like you feel, at the very least, you feel alone. Like the fact, even having Atlas, I'm putting that in quotes for spoiler reasons. Atlas on the radio, like talking to you, almost makes you feel like more alone because
I
he's
think
like
it reinforces
not there.
it as well.
Yeah.
'Cause it makes it. It's like there's that promise that there's somebody else, but it makes them feel really far away.
Yep. And even like when you, the game has this weird tendency that I was noticing while I was watching Andy play through the game, where whenever the game would like put in a cutscene and could not find any justifiable reason for it to not be a cutscene, they would always just put you in front of like a pane of glass and just have you like watch whatever's going on the other side. And it's like that's even how you see Atlas for the first time. Is like because you're locked in the security room within just like looking through a pane of glass as the submarine blows up and like he runs away. So it's just like it keeps you so distant from any non horrible person all the way through up until the encounter with Ryan.
I would count Ryan as still
A horrible
person.
I meant like horrible,
Yeah,
like
what
he's
about-
not trying to murder you.
Yeah, I don't even
Right.
mean like ethically horrible or anything. I just mean that encounter is terrifying.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's a scene from like a psychological horror movie. That is not like a comforting.
He-
I finally found another sane person moment.
He does Hannibal Lecter a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that whole moment is very good. That was definitely one of the things because Andy, you said that you like just there were elements of that you saw coming, and then
Oh,
other
yeah.
elements that you didn't.
I
And-
was suspicious of Atlas from the word go.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
always suspicious of characters like that. Like when, like in, this is not a great comparison, but I'm going to compare it to it anyway. Like in the Undertale cast,
Right.
Yeah.
I was really suspicious of Toriel because she swoops right in when you're the most vulnerable and like guides you through and like is your best friend for no reason, which is always suspicious to me. Like it feels like they're using you for their own motives.
Right.
Boom. That's exactly what Atlas was doing.
The comparison did not prove that you were right often, but
Yeah,
it
'cause
proved
it-
that you were suspicious all the time.
So I was like, yeah, I was kind of picking up on things that I feel like you would only pick up on a second playthrough.
Right.
Like there's a lot of times where like things happen where he doesn't react the way I would think a normal person would. Like when his family dies, when the sub blows up. Like, sorry, sarcastically said to Chad, I'm like, oh, I didn't seem that upset.
Right.
And, and things like that. Like, there were little tells here and there. I can't think of specifics other than that one, but...
This game's really good at putting, like, implied depth all over the place in places like that. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where you can tell that it's sort of, in a lot of ways, an art house work, but an art house work that's only possible with, like, infinite money that 2K could provide. Because you have moments that would be, like, individually memorable in a less narrative, sort of more, I'm going to use this, but I don't mean it in a derogatory sense, generic game would come through. It would be something that would be memorable in, like, some of the, like, old Elder Scrolls or something.
Yeah,
but,
I get what you're saying, because, like, generic, in comparison to Bioshock, is not, like, a...
Yeah.
Because Bioshock is pretty out there on a lot of levels.
More generic than Bioshock doesn't mean...
Yeah, it
like
doesn't mean actually generic.
Right.
Yeah, there's just so much authored everything.
Yeah.
The thought that they put in to the setting in just like these little conversations, all of the voice acting all over the place that you as the player the first time will just be probably freaked out about and be worrying about your own shit and not really caring, but upon actual inspection has meaning that you didn't intend it for it to be there. It's nice mostly in its volume. There's just so much of it all over the place.
Like so much authored content.
Yeah.
I'm a huge sucker for that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. This is a very, like, I guess, okay, I've used the term story-driven before, and it very much is, it's very, like, experience-driven, and, like, that's really the one way that you can, like, make a legitimately unique corridor first-person shooter game, is to just, like, make it as unique and, like, of its own as possible. And Bioshock does that really well with all of that authored content. Like, between the splicers having, like, conversations with each other and themselves as they walk around. Even though you're going through, like, a prescribed path, you're still, like, only going to hear some of that if you're, like, not detected in a certain area, and all of the signage and retro-futuristic shit that they put all over the place.
The splicers do work as they're, like, not a great excuse, but, like, it is a pretty good excuse for just shooting things in the face for 12 hours.
Right.
Like, it's just that little bit of, like, I don't know, context for the killing that goes a long way in a shooter, I think.
Yeah. Because the first ones that you find are basically just talking about smashing your fucking brains out.
Yeah, and they're all, like, hostile to you and obviously, like...
And hostile to other people.
Right, and mindless... They're pretty much just mindless murder machines.
Yeah. Which does kind of go against, like, their portrayal as being, like, drug addicts to a certain extent. But,
well,
like,
I think they've been mutated.
They've gone too far.
Yeah.
I don't think you've met enough drug addicts. Aren't they all just clearly mindless
just
murder
machines? Yeah, that's how I describe it. Well, yes, while you're bashing their faces in, you're interacting with what is probably the most often criticized component of this game, which is the combat. Which I don't know exactly how much you would have to say about it, Andy, because you're not a shooter player.
I'm not, and I pretty much use the wrench exclusively
Of
the
course
whole
you did.
game.
So you barely used guns. I'm guessing that you don't find that criticism as, like, very good personally. I assume you really, really like the combat. Am I correct in that?
I have thoughts on the combat that are not positive, but
are they non-wrench thoughts?
Well, I did the one all melee playthrough, but I played this game several times, and actually my favorite weapon in the game is not the wrench, it's the chemical thrower.
Always forget about that one.
Yeah, it's underappreciated. But it's... The thing with the combat is I feel like they wanted to give you, like, an infinite number of choices to, like, take on any encounter.
A Bioshock Infinite.
A Bioshock Infinite number of choices.
No, they did not do that yet. That wasn't a thing yet.
The game has very old school shooter design. I actually made a list of things that it does like old shooters that
Top
would
10
be
things.
that would be
Bioshock does.
basically obliterated with the release of Gears of War later in the same year.
I actually don't know which one of those came first. I was going to ask that earlier.
Well, they're both in development at the same time.
Yeah.
But things that this game does that are very old. You can hold all the weapons in the game just on your person, no questions asked.
Mm-hmm.
There's no cover. You have your weapons are all just archetypes of weapons. So you have pistol, shotgun, machine gun, and they're called that in game. There's no you're not carrying around a Walther PPK.
Yeah.
You're carrying around pistol. There's no cover. I already said that. You have a health bar. They're door codes and audio logs. This game comes very much from the PC pedigree.
Old PC shooters specifically had audio logs?
I'm pretty sure audio logs have been a thing for since the dawn of time.
Yeah, I think that's a common way to deliver a narrative in old shooters.
Bioshock popularized it so much
That
that
is
I
true.
assumed that it just created the concept of audio logs.
Yes, they went back in time and invented the audio log.
Well, I think he means in games.
Yeah, I know.
I'm honestly not I'm not gonna swear to it, but I'm fairly certain that the original System Shocks had audio logs in them as well. But yeah, most of those games were not popular, or at least popular enough for it to make industry trends, and Bioshock absolutely was.
You do also regain health by eating food, which
Oh,
is a classic old video
yeah.
game thing.
But you
to do.
eat just everything.
Yeah.
You're a trash compactor monster.
I kept forgetting that picking up food just made you eat it.
Right.
So anytime I would run across alcohol, I would just be mashing the pick up button and would just be drunk immediately.
Yeah.
I just drank a bunch of whiskey or something. God damn it.
I remember that one time you were you had the security alarms going off, and you walked into this area and just started downing bottles of vodka. And you were oh god, I didn't mean to do this, as you're still drinking vodka. And then you take 2 steps to the left and a security bot shows up and you just can't aim at it. And you're oh no.
I was unaware that this game's commentary on drug addiction was also referential to the player.
To play, yeah. When you're in Fontaine's apartment, there's just a bar that has a lineup of every liquor in the game, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just dude, do the line.
I did.
Just runs down it, drinks all of it.
I would have done it anyway.
Yeah, it is. It's comical in that way, where it's just oh, you ate 3 apples and a bag of potato chips that you found in the garbage can.
Yeah.
And you got $3 too. And it's that's weird and all, but it comes from a good-natured place.
Right.
Because they want you to feel like you're scavenging to survive.
Yeah, it's recontextualized well.
Right.
You're running around, scurrying among garbage like a rat
Yeah.
trapped in a maze,
Right.
which is kind of what you are.
Right.
Right, yeah, I didn't bring it up as a negative thing.
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah.
game.
It is something that a lot of people point out, though. A lot of people talk about how you're eating food out of the garbage.
That kind of
does
stuff
seem weird, but
does
it's
it really usually bother me in games.
Yeah, I didn't think about it the first time I played through the game. I was only 16.
Right.
But, yeah, it didn't, occur to me as something that was, strange or weird in any way.
People who make criticisms like that, they're looking for a level of narrative consistency that often will actually conflict with good gameplay.
I agree. Because, if they went, out of their way to implement, a system where if you ate, rotten food, it, made you sick or something,
Right.
it
Yeah.
would just be really annoying.
Yeah, the
In my
mechanics
opinion.
still have to serve what's going on. They contextualize the scavenging for items within the context of the game well enough that it has some narrative consistency, which is you're a guy scurrying for nibbling old potato chips, making sure he doesn't
Right.
die. But asking for sort of consistencies that would add nothing to often gameplay wouldn't be worthwhile. It's like, to make another silly comparison, the reason in our D&D games that I don't track like encumbrance particularly, like down to like specific meters. It's not what you're there for, and thus not what you should spend like a disproportionate amount of your time caring about.
Right.
You shouldn't have like an inventory full of 6 million bags of potato chips in Bioshock, because it doesn't produce any interesting results. It just produces a player navigating through menus.
Right, to jam A, to eat all of those potato chips. Which is basically what Skyrim does. It forces you to eat food from a menu, which is irritating. I've been playing Skyrim, so that was like
that is a preview of next week.
That's
Next time.
Oh God!
No, it's two times from now.
Right. Two times from now.
Two times.
This is a sneak preview.
Sneak preview.
We plan farther in ahead.
The
than you might
double
expect.
sneak
Yeah.
preview.
So I'm curious though, because you brought it up.
Yeah.
Well, I brought it up, but then you.
What are you curious
You're gonna
about? The
redo
thing
this.
that you brought up, Chad?
Remix.
Did you have contrary thoughts about the combat in this game?
I am less critical of the game's combat than other people. I think some of the things that make it seem like sort of slow and not very effective to others were also at least partially intended to reinforce the themes. Like, the bullets don't really feel like bullets in a lot of other games when you fire them, with the exception of like the shotgun. Like, if you're running around with the pistol and just like shooting splicers,
Right.
they kind of aren't affected by it much. You're just making their health bar go down until they die. And while that's very video gamey and out of context would just seem like the kind of thing that's a little bit dated, within the context of the game, I think they were intending to make the splicers seem like this like crazy, unstoppable,
Right.
guys high on meth thing,
Yeah,
which I'm
you,
okay with.
you shoot a guy twice as he's like flying through the air toward you with a wrench. Like you're
Yeah.
not gonna.
I'll say they do. I think kind of feel like they don't have much like realistic weight to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like you're just like shooting the gun. And you're like, I was waving my hand in a weird motion there. But yeah, like the knockback on all the weapons is really weird, and like there's something kind of odd about it.
Yeah.
I don't have the vocabulary to describe it to you here.
Yeah, it's
but-
something. It's a very shooter thing where it's like it comes down to how you make the guns like quote feel.
Mhm.
And I think that what's interesting is I think that like the guns themselves look good, and I think that like their animations are fairly good, and the sound design I think is really good. But it is just that feeling like when you shoot something, it just doesn't. It doesn't feel like you're making like a significant impact.
Yeah.
It's like that is a there's like a constant weird thing in shooters where it's like you have to nail that down.
Question.
There was something. It really stood out to me when fighting Big Daddies, and like I would shoot like the rocket launcher at
Right.
them, and it
Yeah.
didn't really feel any different than like shooting them with a bullet.
Right. Yeah, with the Big Daddies especially, or with the bouncers especially, it's like the guns are literally just like a device that you point at them to make a red bar above their head decrease.
Because like you blast them with like a grenade, and they just keep coming at you.
Yeah. The chemical thrower is actually like kind of an unusual switch to that because the characters have different, like, I don't know if it's different AI or if it's just like a scripted animation that plays whenever they're on fire. So lighting an enemy on fire with a chemical thrower makes them
Run around.
Yeah.
like an idiot, yeah. So that was fun.
If that's the case, then it seems all the more likely then that the enemy's not reacting to your shots was probably an intentional choice then, if they made the choice to make it different for the flamethrower example.
Right.
I guess they probably just went a little bit too far in that direction.
Like,
When you make
all
literally-
the plasmids have different, like,
Yeah.
reactions to them.
It's just, when everything that you encounter seems like an unstoppable force, it just makes the world seem like everything in it is unstoppable instead of you are around a bunch of unstoppable things.
Right. You had a question. You snapped your fingers and everything.
Oh, that's been at least a minute ago and thus lost to time and
Of
space.
course. Yeah.
Maybe if I snap them again, it'll come back like a genie.
He actually just used incinerate. That's
I'm
how
not
he
a
uses
genie.
So, something I mentioned before about having them want you to have like a play your own way sort of mentality, where it's like you just want to take any situation in whatever way you feel like. I've written that guns, plasmids, tonics, and ammo types create a brown mash of systems that miss the mark, that they make too little difference in, like, the way that the game goes down. There are very few things that, like, require a plasmid to do. It's really just melting ice and opening doors are the only two things that you need plasmids for.
I think the game really wanted you to light oil and alcohol on fire.
Oh yeah, you can do that
Because
as
there's
well.
the one scripted thing early on, but then you just never end up doing that
Right.
again.
Which basically forces you to carry, incinerate, and electrobolt. Yeah, that's it. Throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of an unusual choice, but whatever. I mean, if they wanted it, they eventually give you 6 slots for plasmids. So, and I think most people probably used 0 plasmids ever.
What?
Most people I've talked to are just like because you have to switch
Yeah.
gun plasmid, like it's single wielding.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people say they just mostly use guns through like the majority of encounters.
Yeah, that was a mistake
Yeah.
they corrected later.
Yeah.
I didn't use it either.
Mm.
As early as Bioshock 2, they started experimenting solutions to that problem.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I think I
definitely
remember
use
the
them
other
less.
question that I had
Oh, go
that
for
I
it.
snapped and did all the little snappy genie things.
Yeah?
I might just be a delayed genie. Which is... in Bioshock Infinite, did enemies have health bars, generally?
Oh god, I don't remember. I think so. I'm actually almost 100% sure that they did.
Oh, man. Then I'm just completely wrong with the thing. I thought, for some reason in my mind, and that might just be me having really glossy memories of Bioshock Infinite, I didn't remember them having health bars. And I think that instead what I'm just thinking of is how easy a lot of things were to kill comparatively to this game, especially early on.
That's true. And yeah, in Bioshock you mow down things like it's nobody's business, except for things that are supposed to be like huge enemies.
Yeah. They have the kind of like differences in how enemies react to your abilities that wasn't present in the original Bioshock that we were talking about.
Right. This game, I mean, you do still mow things down pretty easily in this game, depending on your difficulty setting, I guess. But like, this game is a game that loses a lot of what it wants to do once you like understand the systems fully, because like things like tonics, honestly, tonics and the U-invent machines and all of their like weird components are both aspects of this game that I feel like probably are not that necessary to make the game good. Because like they just feel so tacked on, and like having the like anything that you make in the U-invent machines could basically just be in vending machines.
Yeah.
It's not really hindering you that much. And the tonics are just like weirdly stackable in a way that you can break aspects of the game. Yeah, I was able to go through the whole game on hard with just a wrench. Because they use so many melee tonics. It's just like, I don't know, just very unusual. I think that just the guns and the plasmids, and even the multiple ammo types are fine. Just for conservation means. Like, the fact that you need to feel like you're running out of ammo all the time in like a survival game, having different ammo types at least, like, allows them to give you some more ammo while still making you feel like you're using like the suboptimal loadout.
Yeah, that's another thing that they did. That's what we were talking about before from old games that they recontextualize well. Because you carry all the guns at the same time and have like separate ammo types for each gun, it makes you feel like you're just about to run out of ammunition all the time by just them subdividing the total amount of ammo you have into like 12 categories.
Right. You actually have like a military stockpile of ammo, but like your favorite gun is out of its regular ammo type all the time, which forces you to switch, which is a good thing. That being said, it's alleviated if you use like the offensive plasmids more.
I guess in that case, because that sounds, at least in terms of a design decision, like something that they did to again try and force player diversity in approaches. It both made you feel like you were constantly under pressure and actually forced you to switch weapons because you only had like 12 shots in your pistol no matter how much you liked the pistol.
Right.
But as we were describing before, evidently people just kept using the guns all the time anyway. I guess they had a little bit too many subdivisions or too many guns in that case.
I think it's possible that there are too many guns. I think you have 9 or something. You have a bunch of weapons in this game.
And I feel
and the wrench is altogether too effective, I think.
Yeah. I felt like I felt disincentivized to use the plasmids because I felt like they worked different than I would have expected. Like, whenever you have to, like, replenish something like that with, like, you know, like mana in other games, it's Eve in this game, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt like I needed to, like, use it sparingly. So I was like, when I ran into a Big Daddy, I'm like, oh, this will be a good place to use the plasmids.
And it's so
and
not
it's
a good
so
place.
ineffective against them. So I'm like, oh, well, I guess that's not how it works. I'm just gonna shoot things with a gun. No.
Yeah, plasmids like serve such like an unusual purpose in this game because none of them like outright murder a guy, with the exception of things like Security Bullseye and Hypnotize Big Daddy, which people don't tend to use on their first playthrough.
I did.
Oh yeah.
I never, as soon as I got Hypnotized Big Daddy, I was the paranoid enough person that I just never left my plasmid bar ever again.
Oh, you just smack the Big Daddies.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Just move on.
I was always looking for friends.
Yeah. Yeah, no, my first playthrough, I definitely, like, I mean, once again, I was 16. That was not really what I was thinking about when I was playing the game, is, like, these, like, strategic, like, very stealthy, like, base plasmids, but everything else is used more as, like, either a distraction, you have decoy, the bees, I forget that, swarm, I think is what it's called.
The bees is acceptable.
Yeah, the bees. The electric bolt plasmid just stuns people. It does very little damage. The incinerate catches people on fire, but doesn't usually do all that much damage. Once you eat, like, if you light oil or something, it usually kills them, because why not? But for the most part, the plasmids are not like your heavy damage dealing. They want you to use, like, combos. So they want you to, like, light somebody on fire, then, like, kill the more urgent guy, and then turn back and kill the guy because he's, like, crisping up and needs to come attack you again.
I think the pace of combat is a little bit too fast for those strategic decisions.
Yeah.
They still want to keep it a horror game. They still want people to be able to leap at you from huge distances and come across and have like the same sort of frantic FPS atmosphere. But it's just really hard for most players, I think, to be able to take in all those environmental details in an environment that's like so dark and downplayed. When you have monsters coming to attack you, you're just not in the same frame of mind necessary to be like, okay, I'm going to set up this Rube Goldberg machine where this gets caught on fire and we lead them this way. You have your sneaking moments where you can try and plan in advance, but things break down so fast.
Yeah, especially when you have the inclusions of spider splicers and Houdini splicers, because they can literally just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, like, you can't plan for that. That's one of the things that Bio 2 did so well, introducing the little sister, like, harvesting sequences, because it allowed you to actually, like, set up, like, a kill room with the plasmids that you wouldn't really use all that often otherwise.
Oh, I've never played Bioshock 2.
Oh, it's amazing. It's a great game.
I actually have it and got through the intro, and I forget why I stopped. But I'll go back, because even though, like, nobody gave it a whole lot of, like, praise at the time, because it, as far as I was aware, it was just them kind of, like, tweaking Bioshock and not really doing anything new with it.
Right.
Everything I've heard about it, in terms, like, mechanically, from described to me as good.
Right. I still think the narrative is not quite on par with the first game, but really good.
Yeah.
But the mechanics are, in my opinion, a pretty big step up. Like, it feels a lot better. I think it's the best combat in the series. But that's not what we're talking about here today.
Breaks!
Kill your cravings at the Circus of Values!
How about that level design?
Let's resume talking about Bioshock.
Okay.
Bioshock sequence initiated.
Would you kindly talk about Bioshock? Sorry, that was bad. That became a question near the end. So that was bad?
Okay, it can't be me, because I honestly have no idea where you guys are going to level design, potentially because I'm a dumb person who doesn't pay attention to things in corridor shooters.
Well, a lot of the things that we wanted to talk about, and we're just going to roll right into it.
Yeah.
Is the, well, like you were saying variety. I assume that you mean aesthetic variety.
Yeah, they put a surprising amount, I think anyway, of aesthetic variety into a game that takes place in an underwater city.
Yeah.
That is dark.
That's
also
dark.
important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the parts that seem more brightly lit are the things
garden.
like, the garden, which is intentional. They have like heat lamps and stuff to keep the plants alive. And then in the ice areas, which feel kind of weird in the context of the game, but at the same, like, they give it a narrative reason to exist. And the brightness is mostly just an illusion because all the walls are white and light blue. So, like, it's still low light, but it's more vivid. Like, it's a very, like, bright color palette as opposed to in other areas.
Okay. So you guys meant, when we were talking about this topic before, I thought you guys were going to go into, like, level design specifics from, like, a gameplay perspective, not an aesthetic perspective.
Now, there are only a few areas in the game mechanically that stand out, because, like, a lot of the things are just sort of, like... The game definitely puts its aesthetics ahead of its, like, encounter design. Because, like, when you're in, like, the mall area...
Who's one of my favorite.
Yeah, it's so good. Xander Cohen, an amazing character. But when you're in that area, it just looks like a shopping center. Like, there's a block with stores and storefronts, everything's like glass fronts and everything on it.
Right.
And that's really the primary thing. The areas, to me, that stick out mechanically are the ones that are, like, very open. When you're in an open area with, like, only a few, like, pieces of cover is when the combat always feels the most frantic, because, like, you can't hide from the splicers, and so you're forced to just sort of, like, take them all out. And that's, I mean, other than that, like, everything is just, a corridor shooter. You're in a place with stairs and railings sometimes. That's about it.
I keep trying to compare it in my mind to Halo as, like, an example of, like, really good mechanical level design and trying to figure out the things that are missing.
I didn't even know that Halo was a corridor shooter.
Well, it's not technically a corridor shooter, but it has, like, you know, vignetted areas that you have to progress through. And while you can tackle individual, like, components of each area, you have to go through the areas in certain orders.
Yeah. Halo is actually a great counterpoint to Bioshock, because Halo is a game that put its mechanical design 1,000,000% higher than its aesthetic design.
Yeah.
I think, now I'm a big fan of Halo, and these two are not, at least not experienced with it.
I played just 3.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
So you know, like, in Halo, you'll, like, there will be an area where you have to, like, go across a bridge.
Yeah.
And there would just be, like, those plasma, like, shield things up for no reason. Like, you're not going to run across that kind of a thing in Bioshock.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to find, like, a machine gun encampment facing the enemies in a mall. Or in a garden.
You know what Bioshock lacks, necessarily, because of its level design and, like, other aesthetic qualities?
The turret section?
Distance!
Oh,
It
right.
lacks distance. You don't have, like, the huge vistas that would exist, that often necessarily exist in, like, really well-designed shooter areas. There's no Bioshock, like, sniper rifle.
Right,
Because
you don't
there
have a
couldn't
sniper
be.
rifle.
You don't have... It wouldn't be practical, because you couldn't set up those kind of areas like what they were discussing before and pick people off from huge distances. They'd be in your face.
And that's why, like, the enemies don't have guns.
Right.
As well.
Well, some of them do. The leadhead splicers
Well,
have
okay.
pistols.
Yeah.
I think there's some that have shotguns. Hilariously, the only time that there's, like, even a sniper versus player scenario, it's a guy with a box of grenades standing on a balcony lobbing them down at you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not... Like, at no point are you, like, dashing from cover to cover to avoid sniper fire. It's well, claustrophobic is another great word to use to describe Bioshock. The fact that you're underwater, there's literally no escape. Like, you can't... even in the context of the world, like, not the game. Like, when
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to, like, go somewhere and get fresh air. You're underwater. If you go somewhere, you're going to have to get into a bathysphere and, like, take the hour-long ride back up to the surface, presumably slowly so you don't get the bends.
And then you'll be back on an island in the middle of nowhere with
Right.
your crashed plane to the
Yeah.
left.
Well, on a Lighthouse Island.
Yeah, I guess that was definitely a trade-off that they made in that sense, and it makes things feel a little samey like mechanically, but very different. They worked so hard to distinguish between these areas, like the ice level,
Right.
and the mall and things like that. Probably in part because they knew they didn't have a whole lot of room for that sort of encounter differentiation, given the mechanics that they're using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that as Andy was bringing up earlier, the garden is probably the most striking, like, difference in area that there is. Like, you just open, like, a bulkhead, and all of a sudden you're on, like, hills with, like, rolling hills and grass and trees, and you're like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, it's really impressive the amount of, like, different areas they were able to introduce while still making everything feel consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And it all, like, on another level, stays consistent with the idea that this place used to be like a utopia.
Right.
Yeah.
That is now, like, crumbling, and that stays, like, very consistent throughout.
Right, that's where, something that I did, like, I wrote this down, and I've talked about it to you guys before, and I'm not 100% sure. Really, I don't really want to get into it now. I think that we've covered it for the most part, but the Fallout, Bioshock, like, retrofuturism aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like, that comparison can probably be made, but, like, this game and Fallout, which I was debating, because, like, I mean, Fallout, the original games came out well before Bioshock did. I feel like they both use it in, like, almost a necessary way. Whereas in, like, the later entries in the Fallout series, specifically 3, New Vegas, and 4, use it almost like, you know, it's like a parody of what it used to be, but, like, now, in Bioshock, it feels like it's just like this is what probably would have existed in the time. That's what the whole thing started as.
They're never trying to be tongue-in-cheek, ever.
Right. Well, you can make an argument for the plasmid vignettes. The, like, 6-second, like, heat 'em up.
Oh, those!
Yeah.
Oh, you're totally right about that. Sorry, in my mind, I kind of differentiated those from the rest of the setting, I guess.
It's really weird in comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are kind of tone-breaking.
I think... I guess they were trying to be jarring there, too, in the way that you often have to be in, like, horror settings when you're trying to shift tone really heavily.
Honestly, the thing that works really well in terms of, like, the true horror of Bioshock is probably the Circus of Values vending machine.
Yeah, that was a problem.
Yeah, oh, God. I don't know. It's almost effective in that, like, those are always in, like, safe spots, and you just don't want to be there. Because it's so annoying.
It does. It's the one that really stands out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of easy to miss some of the vending machines, but you never miss a Circus
A Circus of Value.
Like,
because you have to fulfill your cravings.
that voice, that voice always, like, always finds your ear.
Yeah. It cuts through everything. Yeah, like, because all the other vending machines also make noises. The UN-Vents have a jingle. The, like, Gatherer's Gardens are pretty hard to miss.
Isn't the bullet
The
one?
ammo machine.
Yeah, Ammo Bandito.
I knew it was Western.
Just has a guy, like, indistinctly mumbling in Spanish.
And
I'm sure somebody knows what he's
Aren't
saying.
they,
you know?
like, gun noises? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But then that fucking clown laugh,
Every time.
like, that'll wreck you, like, emotionally by the end of this game.
The true emotional impact of Bioshock.
Yeah, it was just hearing that fucking clown laugh.
Ugh.
Oh, so weird.
What was their intent with that? What were they trying to do with the clown laugh?
I think all of the jingles that play from the vending machines are just there to draw your attention to them. I think that they just, like... depending on your perspective, really hit the mark or really missed it with the Circus of Value one.
I mean, sure, they're definitely there to draw your attention, but it has to be within the context of
I
the
think
setting.
it's kind of like the plasmid videos. It's kind of like a parody of advertising from that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
And they just made one
Ah,
a
welcome
little
to the
bit...
Circus of Value. Step right up. Step right up.
a little bit too grating.
You know,
that
like
one
wagging
time.
the finger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ringleader, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's... I mean, obviously, I think that's all accurate. I don't know. It definitely stays with you.
It definitely, like, is unsettling at times, too.
Yeah. Especially if you're stuck in an area, like in a combat encounter, and you just keep hearing that, like, like, over and over again. It's pretty freaky. I don't know. This game as a whole hits, like, the horror notes extremely well. Like, better than most traditional horror games.
I actually kind of completely forgot about this till you just said that. But I was so tense at the beginning of this game, like, until my first combat encounter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what it was. Like, the setup just made me, like, really, like, I did not know what to expect.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, like, you can play it up in your imagination, like, how horrible your first combat's gonna be before it happens.
They do tease it a lot. If I'm not missing anything, but you have the trip down in the bathysphere, then you watch a guy get impaled, then they try and break into your sphere, leave, comes back, another one gets chased away by the little robotic thing.
Right.
Then you keep going. One like throws a thing at you, it like throws a burning couch
Down some stairs.
and then runs
you have
away.
to jump over it.
And then there's the ones that like inspect you when you're unconscious. There's a lot of teasing.
Yeah, there's a lot of good build-up, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I think, like, that whole segment is just trying to set, like, the mood of the game.
Right.
And gives you your first weapon, your first plasmid. So, that's, like, the whole thing. And then, like, they introduce you to one of the major characters, Big Daddy's little sisters, splicers, plasmids, weapons, jumping, movement, all of that within, like, a 10-minute span.
Yep.
Before they give you something that can actually kill you. And I think that's, like, I mean, I don't know, that sounds like good game design to me.
Yeah. It was pretty streamlined in a good way.
Yeah. And it emphasizes the tone so well. Like, just, like, having you that, like, basically helpless for so long, and, like, just basically putting you through a haunted house ride.
Yeah.
And he's like, boo! And they go, oh, jeez!
Good representation of a haunted house there.
Yeah, that was me in a haunted house. Before you get to all the murdering that you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So,
What was next on the list?
the plot of the
How
game?
about them Big Daddies?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the Big Daddies.
Oh yeah.
How do you forget about Big Daddies?
That's a good question.
Okay.
No, I love the Big Daddies for so many reasons, and I think the game uses them. I was gonna say well just now, and then I just had like a thought, and they might actually use them slightly too much, because they just patrol after you've, like, theoretically dealt with all the little sisters. Mm-hmm. They continue to just walk around and, like, pound on things. So, you may get, like, by the end of the game, I feel like you might get a little too familiar, a little too friendly with the Big
they're
Daddies.
too overexposed to them.
But, as, like, what they are, which is just the boss enemy archetype, they are so well designed in terms of, like, because a little girl walking around who is, like, basically like a dead thing
Right.
with glowing eyes that sucks shit out of dead bodies, and, like, deformed, genetically altered human beings with wrenches, pipes, and guns are not things that you naturally associate with underwater.
No.
True.
It doesn't. That doesn't. There's like like almost a disconnect between, like, the enemies and the game itself, And the Big Daddies do such an amazing job of pulling you back into that and, like, not letting you forget where you are. Because they dress them in big diver suits. They use them for construction, as revealed in Bio 2. Apparently the suits are not aesthetic. They can just walk around outside, like, underwater, if they want to. So they take the heavy enemy, like, the needed heavy enemy in the shooter game thing, and they just use it to just drill home the fact that you are, like, in this underwater city, and I don't know, and they're so iconic.
Yeah.
Like,
The
they're in the
design.
episode art for this episode because it's what people most heavily associate with the game.
The aesthetic design of them is phenomenal, I think.
The choice I always thought was most interesting was that they forced you to have to antagonize the Big Daddy and not the reverse.
Right.
I'm not entirely clear and decided of all the things, like the reasons that they made that choice. Because in any other horror game, you would just expect that the Big Daddy would be like your stand-in for that giant mutant from Resident Evil 2 or whatever. Like the thing that's just hunting you all the time.
Yeah.
But they very intentionally didn't do that. They just made them this sort of like passive, like colossi-like force that just sort of
I
wanders.
think it's to, like, reinforce that moral choice they want you to make with the little sisters.
Yeah.
Because, like, if
another
you're
thing I
going
wanna
to
get into,
harvest
but-
them, you have to, like, go out of your way to antagonize the Big Daddy, kill him,
Right.
and then harvest her. Like, it's to make it...
But the game still treats killing the Big Daddy as an okay thing if you save the sister.
Right.
Well, thematically, like, story-wise, the game basically sets up the Big Daddies to just, like... I think they wanted to make it as simplistic as possible, and basically just said that the Big Daddies only attack people to protect the little sisters.
Yeah.
And presumably, when Rapture was a, like, living, breathing city, the Big Daddies mostly just strolled around and were just, like, a part of the scenery.
Yeah, just did like rivets and
Yeah,
stuff.
and now, post-Fall Rapture, the Big Daddies are much more active because everyone wants to kill them and, like, hurt the little sisters, and so it, like, they sort of, like, just, they're a protector, like a police force.
Yeah.
And then so you have to antagonize them because they are not consciously aware of the change in Rapture. They're just basically machines that walk around.
Yeah.
One thing I think is really interesting about the Big Daddy, Little Sister...
Dynamic.
Dynamic, that's the word. Is that they give you a relatable and, like, real human dynamic through
Right.
to, like mutated characters. Like, you get, like, this sense of a father-daughter relationship, which is one of the only human things you run across in all of Bioshock.
Right. The only two beings that really care about each
Yeah,
other.
which really I find really interesting.
Mm.
I'm
Specifically interesting in that, as I was saying before, the game kind of incentivizes you, in some respects, to try and forcibly rip that apart
right.
Yeah. All the time.
all the time.
Yeah, like 15 times he said it.
It's just creepy. I don't know if it has some deeper intentional meaning, like in the context of the rest of the game mechanically, or how it fits in with like the overall narrative puzzle of the game. But it definitely serves to make you feel like just a weird freak who's running around ruining families, even if you think you can rationalize it afterwards.
Right. Another really solid reason as to why you have to antagonize the Big Daddies before they'll attack you within the context of the game is I feel like it would feel almost too oppressive because there seem to be an unlimited number of them walking around if they just could attack you out of nowhere.
Right, but they control how many would be available.
Well, that's true, but if they continued with the Big Daddies will still walk around even after you've got enough little sisters in the area theme, you could literally, in the game currently, if you're just walking around, one can just walk by you. Like, if you just suddenly were, like going about your business trying to complete an objective, and then, like, just got charged by a bouncer, it would be like, because those guys tend to, like, just lock you down.
True, but I still think that's a straw man. They can do, and do within the context of the games, a ton of things to try and signal that the Big Daddies are approaching. You can hear them whenever they get into conflicts with like the other forces in the environment, and of course you can hear their moans and giant steps.
True.
They could have been used if they were naturally antagonistic to you as like minute little stealth sections or something like that, in ways similar to how they used in the DLC for Bioshock Infinite, Burial at Sea.
Yeah.
Like the second half of that, there were lots of sequences in which you're mostly just trying to sneak around antagonistic forces in Rapture.
I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier, that this game puts story before gameplay,
Right.
and it's really satisfying, I think, narratively, that they only really exist to protect the Little Sisters and won't become hostile till you attack them.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
Well, for a game that puts story first, we should probably talk about that story that it puts first.
Dancing around it a
Do
bit.
we have to?
Andy, we can't talk about the story until you finish your vegetables.
Wait, that doesn't make sense.
No, not at
It's
all.
the exact opposite.
Yeah, Andy was...
It was yeah.
The story is the vegetables.
Don't make me turn this podcast around. Alright, so, you're on a plane.
Yeah.
Plane crashes into the ocean.
Yeah.
Wreckage everywhere.
Yep.
You swim to a lighthouse.
Yep.
You walk in the lighthouse.
Also correct.
Horribly creepy giant statue of a guy staring down at you.
Who looks just like weirdly aggressive.
Yes. There's a...
Looks angry, yeah.
Yeah.
In any other game, that would be a majestic face. That would be like a guy who thinks he's the hottest shit imaginable.
It would be Comstock.
Yeah.
This is the exact tonal difference between Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Bioshock, it's just a giant golden man snarling at you from a story above you.
Sternly judging
I
you.
want to know the statistics of how many people missed that.
No one.
0%. You're the only
How
one.
did you do that?
I would, like, in most games, it's like a fact that most players won't look up unless prompted to.
True, but there was quite a bit of prompting.
I would have never. I think I probably would have played that game through multiple times and without looking up at that.
See, I get the feeling that... I think,
never once did I even think about looking up.
I think that this is going to be stupid because I don't
I'm sure that
remember what it says.
there's design elements in place to make me look up, but I completely dismissed them all.
Wait, you don't remember what it says?
I remember now. It took me 1 second. When you walk in, I think at eye level is the banner that says "No gods, only men."
No gods or kings.
Only men.
Very important.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think that is supposed to be like, oh, well, maybe this is under... I can't describe the brain process that makes you look at the giant face.
You have to look up to even see the text of the banner. That's the signal. And the lights, of course. But...
I'll give him a pass if you just looked up to read the banner
I
and
did,
just happened to not go up high
And then
enough.
I just walked
He did.
And
forward.
walked
It
around.
was
And
the
then-
exact line.
Yeah.
Between the golden statue and the banner.
Yep, and then I read the plaque, and then I was going for the stairs.
Yeah.
And you guys made me turn around.
Well, either way, you do that, you go down, you get scared shitless. We talked about the intro sequence.
Yep.
Very good. So, what we launch into is this story that a lot of people have labeled as like a Randian nightmare.
That is a weird way to say that.
I mean,
it just sounds like you're saying Randy.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
No, it's literally a weird way to pronounce, like, yeah.
It just sounds like not what you're trying to say.
Right. Like some kind of like objectivist nightmare. Then we'll go with that. But I guess the twist is that your player character is like being literally mind controlled and is in fact like a genetically grown, not real.
I always forget that. That's the creepiest, like, unnecessary detail to all of this.
Yeah, that you're like a test tube baby.
Yeah.
Right. It's very that like that's our our jumping off point.
Right.
But what I like that this game does plot-wise, and you guys can get into whatever you thought the most striking points of the story were, because there are certainly a lot of them, is that the story isn't necessarily, even before you find out that Atlas is not a guy, is in fact Frank Fontaine, is that the story isn't about, like, Andrew Ryan and then, like, the people who ruined his city. Nor is it about, like, Atlas and, like, how this world has gotten him down. Everyone in the story is not a good person.
Yeah.
They're just bad people through and through. Andrew Ryan isn't even, like, philosophically speaking, a good objectivist.
Yeah, he turns his back on the philosophy that he espouses like midway through the story. Well, by through the story, I mean through how you experience and learn about the past that already happened.
Yeah, like Rapture's story.
Yeah.
And it's like basically demonstrating how, like, Ryan's plan didn't work, Frank Fontaine's plan didn't work, and, like, everything just fell apart because they put too much faith in people who didn't really know what they were doing.
That's the weirdest part of the whole story message that I rarely see talked about much in, like, the context of Bioshock itself. Because the game opens with this presentation of, like, no gods, no kings, and it's a thing that intuitively, with, like, the kind of young, like, naive new atheist culture that exists these days a lot in sort of, like, the internet savvy boys area, all that little zone, whatever you want to label it in a non-derogatory sense, it displays that and it expects you to, like, latch onto it in some way quick, right. I think.
They want you to feel like the rebellious force.
Yeah, but then the final message of the game is like, no, we kind of need a god or a king.
You need a leader.
It's just straight up that doesn't work.
Right.
But that's... Oh man, that's weird. Because the game spends so much time, like, painting both of those things, granted through unreliable narrators, as, like, awful oppressive forces.
Can you be an unreliable narrator when you're not even who you say you are?
No. Even, but, like, the first.
That's a step beyond unreliable.
I'm not just talking about. I was talking about Ryan too.
Right.
Like, when you're going down the bathysphere and he's doing his little, like, pre-recorded narration thing, and there's, like, even the pictures of, like, you know, God, the hand of government and the hand of presumably Jesus.
Right, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, like, that's supposed to be unreliable as well. I don't know, it's really rare that you hear a lot of media, like, designed to be marketed to us and, like, our age group and culture that attempts to have, like, any kind of pro-authority message, even though this one's kind of, not really concealed, but it's, like, implicit.
Right.
Like, you have to think about it a bit to get the pro-authority bent.
I almost don't even want to say that is the overall, like, the number one goal of this game's narrative.
Oh, yeah, sure, because in Bioshock, finding the number one goal itself is kind of weird, because there's so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and, like, while there is, like, definitely, there's an element of, that pro-authority thing, but even then, like, you see midway through Rapture's story that, like, Andrew Ryan has basically become king of Rapture.
Yeah.
And, like, is now implementing all these laws, and, like, the one that I found the most funny was there's an audio log about, like, people hacking the vending machines, and it's just, like, so, like, it's funny to me because it's just, like, this, he, like, has to break down at this point. Because it's reported to be, like, fairly early. Where he's just like, just don't do that. Like,
stop being
it's
shit.
Like, you're destroying the infrastructure that I set up and have no idea how to maintain. And, like, and so he has to, like, become a leader. And then even he's a shitty leader. And so he gets basically destroyed by the people around him. And it's just very, like, I don't know.
This is getting into, like, we're speaking about the narrative from outside of it, and I'm about to move into, like, a within narrative conversation.
I think that's probably a better place to be anyway.
Oh no, I really like the outside looking in perspective, but regardless, I find it weird, that like I don't think he was necessarily like a bad leader up until that point. Like I don't know if it was Andrew Ryan's fault that a lot of people like perceived class differences and attempted to just rob the shit out of everyone. Right? I mean, he eventually became a shit person, as we've established. Everyone is shit in some way in the context of this game, past or present or future. But, like, is that like a leadership failure? His whole point was that he wasn't even trying to lead anything. He was actively trying not to be a leader. Which I guess rolls back into the pro-leadership message implicit in Bioshock, which is, if you don't try and be a leader and try and escape leadership, people will just murder everyone around them.
Society will crumble to murder.
Yeah.
Right?
If you don't have a
mindless murder machines.
literally mindless murder machines.
I'm not 100% sure if that is a game design necessity or if it's just like a really heavy-handed metaphor. But yeah, they're literally mindless murder machines. Oh. I mean, Ryan himself is an interesting character, especially in the fact that he's the only... Yeah, because even Tenenbaum is behind glass when you meet her. Mm-hmm. He's the only human being that you come into contact with who is not horribly mutated.
Yeah.
And he's an interesting character because at one point he starts communicating directly with the player.
Yeah.
And when he uses this terminology throughout the game of the parasite.
Yeah.
Right? And as you progress through the story and as you become more aware of who you are and what you are and what's really going on, he stops using the term parasite to describe you and starts using slave. Mm-hmm. And then that of course culminates as you're beating his skull into with a golf club into his dramatic a man chooses, a slave obeys line. And it's this theme of choice that Bioshock wants to sort of put into itself. It wants to say there's a moral or even there's just personal choice that affects that.
Do you think that's it all supposed to be a meta commentary on us as video game players?
And yeah, it absolutely was in some respect. This is the part of Bioshock's narrative that I always sort of get confused about and messed up in. It talks about so many things and tries to do so much, often successfully, that I don't know how all the pieces interrelate sometimes. I don't know, for example, if a man chooses, a slave obeys isn't any meaningful sense supposed to be a response to Randy and objectivism. I don't know how those two ideas are supposed to interact. Because it much more clearly is a message about the way we as players interact with games and how we are often just sort of the empty little personalist machines.
Yeah. Well, that's where I think there's some disconnect in the game itself, because Bioshock is a game that doesn't jump the hurdle that a lot of games fail to get over, where your decision to progress through the game is largely driven by the fact that you want to continue playing the game. Mm-hmm. The game doesn't give your character a whole lot of motivation to go forward up until the point where they just basically say that you were being forced to do it the whole time.
Yeah.
To the point where they just couldn't they couldn't give any other narrative reason because of what your character is. And it makes the choice thing a little bit weird, right?
Which choice things? The ethical choices present.
Well,
that
is the only ethical choice that you're actually given in the game is to choose whether you want to harvest or save little sisters.
Atlas tells you to choose what you want to do.
Yeah.
So up until that point, he had told you to do everything and use the trigger phrase.
Right.
For no reason at all. He was like, you do what you want with the little sisters. I mean...
Yeah, and then he actively criticizes Tenenbaum.
Yeah. So you think that he would have just told you to kill them.
To kill little sisters.
Yeah.
And that's literally the note that I have written down for this this game starts what is a series-wide theme is this motif of moral choice. And through the whole series, it's largely pointless.
Yes. Yeah. Even in the context, I wonder if this actually informed a lot of like
Infinite's
the writing
design?
that came out through Infinite, because it seems like they tried to have some kind of ethically significant thing, but then recognized either retrospectively or during development that the act of their role as designer, the fact that they were putting things into place that were supposed to like specifically incentivize or de-incentivize certain things and in some respects control your decisions, meant it took away a lot of the ethical implications of the choice. Because they had to, from their minds, because it's a video game, they thought, using the language of game design, that there had to be just like differing rewards on both sides.
Right.
And at that point, you're just reducing the ethical problem into like a lyrical empirical question, because in the context of a game, you just have one goal. It's very explicit. You're like, get to the end of the game. Yeah. Do this thing, and someone normally just tells you explicitly to do the thing, and you know you're playing a game, so you just kind of take their word that that's the thing that you do.
Right.
And Bioshock, comments on that later. Obviously, it's so strange.
Yeah, it's both it wants to be a commentary on a lot of things, and I feel like it succeeds in telling a good story, an intriguing story, and it also does a good job of making a commentary on both games and game players.
Yeah,
but I feel like the subtler commentaries that it makes fall a little bit short because they're so buried at the bottom of the pile of commentaries that it wants to make.
It does try to bite off more than it can chew, for sure.
But it takes big bites.
It does.
Yeah, there's a lot in its mouth.
Yep.
In the mouth of Bioshock Infinite.
Bioshock 1.
God damn it!
Yeah. There's a lot in the mouth of Bioshock Infinite, but it's all my shit.
I thought you were gonna go with Dick there.
Oh no, it was just because he could eat my shit. We might talk
One
about
day,
Bioshock
a long
Infinite,
time in
and
the
it will
future.
be
but
it'll be a
not
bad
today.
day. Oh Christ.
But do you guys agree with me that the little sister ethical choice is in no way actually an ethical choice?
Oh yeah. In addition to that, well, it's not. It depends on what you mean by an ethical choice. It's a choice between being given the literal easiest way to save somebody's life and choosing to just murder something. Which isn't really ethical so much as it is deciding whether you want to be a human being or fucked it up.
Okay.
The mustache twirly evil guy, basically.
Sure. And that's because they have the reward system in place, delayed as it is, for saving them.
Right.
You take away what's so interesting about those what's supposed to be that I assume that the game was supposed to be talking about how when you're an objectivist and you're doing everything for purely selfish reasons, it still leads to shit.
Right.
But they didn't actually present that choice in the way that it exists in the real world, not even close to one-to-one, because you don't actually gain an advantage by killing them.
No, in fact, you gain an advantage by not killing them.
Yeah.
I've looked up the statistics on this, and I guess you get overall more Adam for saving them, and if you get both, if you go through only doing one the whole way, you actually get enough Adam from both methods to purchase maximum health Eve and plasmid slots, as well as enough plasmids to fill all of those slots. So it's it's such a non-choice mechanically.
Yeah.
That it just fails on that regard on its own.
Yeah. It would have been so much more interesting, I think, if you literally just got nothing for saving them.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
It should have been, narratively speaking, largely skewed in favor of killing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of, at the rewards, if they wanted to still have those little, caring moments, instead of being given plasmids and Adam left in front of the machines,
Just cash.
a teddy bear.
Or just the teddy bear?
Yeah, just a teddy bear, and you pick it up and it's like, it's a teddy bear.
Right.
And maybe it has a note on it. I don't know. Whatever. Just something that forces you to contrast, like, mechanical efficiency toward a goal
Right.
with humanizing the little sisters.
Yeah.
Because they do a good job humanizing them, but they don't... That's not really relevant to the choice.
Right. The like, selfish choice is actually to save them. It benefits you more.
Because it's a video game and it's all
Yeah.
predetermined. You don't have the uncertainty anymore. You certainly, even as the player, don't have the uncertainty after you get the first reward, because you're just like, oh...
Yeah, I just keep doing this.
Yeah.
I think at one point Andy had 2 presents stockpiled. Like, he had saved enough little sisters that the first time he went, he got a reward. Then the next time he went, get another reward. It's like, jeez, you guys are showering me with kindness over here. That is, I think, like, literally the biggest, both narratively and mechanical misstep in this game.
Yeah.
Is just the balance of the rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to talk about?
I was just I think the one other thing that I wanted to mention before we cut it off, unless somebody else had another thing.
I had something, but I don't know how much interesting conversation it would lead to.
Well, the cool thing about podcasts is that if it sucks balls, we can just forget it ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want me to go first, or you go first?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm not gonna like forget what
I was just gonna comment on how well done I thought the encounter with Andrew Ryan was.
Oh, absolutely.
Because like the whole time, I felt like this is one of those things the whole game's gonna build to, and it's gonna be anticlimactic or disappointing.
But it's so not.
It wasn't at all. I thought it was like really well done. So
I agree.
Yeah, I remember because I was there when you were in that moment, and it's such a good like. They drop so much that it's overwhelming, but in a way that it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel like everything has just come crashing down, and then they take control away from you and have you kill this guy, even though like this is the moment that you're actually doubting if it's the right thing to do. Which is as I was saying, when you were playing what is the name of that area? The area right before Andrew Ryan.
Yeah, I remember you commenting on this.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the area.
Yeah, there's this whole part where you, like, gather up a bunch of shit and build an EMP bomb and then put it on the center reactor. That whole area could have probably just been cut out, or at the very least flip-flopped with the Andrew Ryan scene. Because, like, the whole area leading up to that is just, like, this whole, like, alright, the next area is Andrew's area. You're gonna go, you're gonna hang out, you're gonna murder that bastard, and then we're gonna ride home on fucking horses made of fire. And then they're like, oh, but first, there are 3 more Big Daddies and Little Sisters, a fetch quest, like, you have to go back to this little hidey hole and assemble a bomb, put it on a reactor, ride a fucking elevator. Like, there's so much shit in between, because you even get there, and Andrew's like, you're not getting in here, and then, like, you just backtrack back into the area to go do all this shit, and it's like, it's such a huge speed bump to what should just be the huge climax. Like, I had to re-hype myself before going in there. It's, but other than that, beautiful. Yeah. Amazingly done. Beautiful. The only thing that I wanted to say, and I also don't know if this is going to lead to a whole lot of discussion, but the ancillary characters are so well defined through the use of, like, the audio logs and stuff, that, like, each of their encounters, even though they are just, like, all of them are just souped up versions of regular splicers, are just so interesting. Like, just all of their characters and, like, your interaction with them, like Cohen and Steinman, and not really any of the other ones. Mostly Cohen and Steinman.
Yes.
Yeah. They, like, are just so well, like, characterized. Well, the doctor, who doesn't end up being an enemy.
Oh, yeah.
Who is the one who does the botany, she's also very cool. Yeah, this game just does a good job of sort of, like, actually putting you in the world, which is something nice.
Yeah. giving, like we talked about earlier, is lots and lots and lots of money funneled into like specific narrative content that most video games don't put that much money in.
Or even care about it all.
Yeah. I can't. I'm happy that we're living in like a post-Bioshock age now, where people are progressively caring more and more about these things.
Yeah, about
I was able to start these trends. Soon, discussions of most video games like X, as in don't care about narrative or don't care about tone like this, will become an anachronism, and I'll be happy about that.
Well, thank you for listening to NOCLIP this week. That always seems so jarring.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about Fulbright Company's Gone Home. As always, you can get a hold of us, noclippodcast@gmail.com, at noclippodcast on Twitter, noclip on YouTube, and at our website, noclippodcast.com. Thanks for listening. Goodbye!
There's a lot of build-up for no reward.
I didn't have anything to say!
Kind of like the final boss of the game! Boom!
Oh.
It's awful!
Oh, fuck!
I did like how the little sisters like stab him to death.
It's a weird visual metaphor for Atlas. That's it.